So I ask everyone to hold their questions to the end of the presentation, and please put your questions into the chat. And also, could you please give us your name and who you represent so that we know that you're with us today. And after the Q&A sessions, there'll be wrap-ups by Ms. Dean, followed by an optional site visit to see the two sites. And again, that site visit is optional. It is not mandatory. So I am going to introduce Ms. Dean. Leave me a bio, please. Ms. Dean is responsible. First of all, Ms. Dean is the Director of Housing that I said for LISC New York. She is responsible for driving the housing platform for developing affordable housing for LISC New York. Ms. Dean, prior to coming to LISC New York, served as a Senior VP for Resident Services Communities in Boston, Mass. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from Johnson C. Smith University, a master's of education and mental health counseling from the University of Massachusetts, Boston, and a master's degree in public policy from Tufts University. I bring to you Ms. D.
Thanks, Jimmy, for a brief overview and CV. But good afternoon, everyone. I definitely want to bring greetings to all of you on behalf of LISC New York. Those of you who may not be familiar with LISC, but we have been around for a little bit more than 40 years. We have offices all across the country, and everything that we do includes partnering with the residents and our partners to help create and foster inclusive communities of opportunities, again, across the country where families and communities live, work, and play so that they can thrive. And so, as I briefly mentioned, we are a national community development financial institution, so we provide capital, strategy, and technical assistance to entrepreneurs, to any opportunities where, again, low and moderate people can thrive in the places where they live. And back in 1980, LISC New York flagship office was created. And again, since then, we have been doing this work through our services and programs all across the country. Next slide, Jimmy. And so just very briefly, the goal of LISC New York's New York Land Opportunity Program was created back in 2016, which specifically focused on supporting and working with faith-based organizations and mission-driven organizations who own land and had an interest in developing affordable housing, but just really lacked the capacity and real estate development knowledge to do so. And so we focus on providing these organizations with those supports to help bring these projects to fruition. And so again, I do want to reiterate that the organizations that we work with, they have to own the land and or have a long-term leasehold on the property. And so for almost all of our programs, we issue what we like to call requests for expression of interest, where we issue applications for those who have an interest in participating in the program. And in 2023, we're excited that we had the opportunity to expand NYLOP outside of New York City, but across the state. And so you will hear mentioned some of the organizations who we began working with last year as part of our statewide initiative with the support of the Attorney General Letitia James' office, and of course, our longtime supporter, Trinity Church Wall Street. And so, last summer, we selected 7 cohort participants, one of which you will hear from this afternoon, the Oneness Community Development Corporation in Mount Vernon, which is a part of our 2023 NYLOP cohort. And so you already heard from Jimmy. As Jimmy mentioned already, we have been working with Jimmy for some years now on this program and some other initiatives that we have at LISC New York. But Jimmy and his team of Sincere Consultant, they have been providing the development consulting support for our cohort participants. And so, Jimmy has been doing this work for quite some time. And won't date him with the entirety of the time he's been doing this, but I am going to turn it over to Jimmy, but not before I acknowledge some of the other partners who are on the call. I know Jason LeBate from Goldstein Hall is here. I saw Randy, one of our architects from ESKW, is also on the call. And so I do want to just, mention that it's been really great working with the staff at Oneness Community Development Corporation. We are excited about working with them and helping to bring this project in Mount Vernon to fruition. And as we said, this is an opportunity where we are seeking with Oneness to help them identify a co-developer. So the project details that you will hear are not, fully baked. These are all preliminary. We're looking forward to working with Oneness, and they will work with the co-developer, whoever they deem the appropriate partner, to help them develop this property, including its structure, unit mix, etc. And so Mount Vernon, the city of Mount Vernon, they've been very helpful in working and sharing their ideas. And so we are, planning and envisioning that this will be aligned with what the city of Mount Vernon will be happy to support, a market rate, community space development, when it's all said and done. So, Jimmy, I'll turn it over to you to walk through the scope.
Just
We'll
quickly,
talk about the NYLOP cohort. Yeah.
the cohort, as Ms. Dean said, we were lucky enough to expand the program upstate and outside of New York City in 2023. And we started out with 7 members of the cohort, and we now have 6 members. They are the Women's Economic Institute of Syracuse, one the CDC, which we're talking about today here in Mount Vernon, the Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church, which is in Lackawanna, the Mount Moriah AME Church, which is in Cambria Heights, Queens, the Mount Olivet Baptist Church, which is in Hollis, Queens, and we have the New Testament Church of God, which is in the Bronx. So those are the 6 members of the cohort that we're working with to bring their projects to fruition. And then I'm going to give it back to Ms. Dean, and she can introduce the presenters from OREC as well as one the CDC. Ms. Dean?
Sure. So first up, we're happy to introduce and present Pastor Arthur Thomas from Oneness Rehoboth Apostolic Church. And so Reverend Thomas was cultured in the Oneness Apostolic faith from a young age. In 82, he was elected to serve as the assistant pastor of his local church from 1998. It relocated its current location, the 125 East 3rd Street in Mount Vernon. And in 2000, Pastor Thomas was elected Presbyter for Section 1 New York Metro District UPCI and served in this capacity until 2002, where he was then elected as the district superintendent in 2002 and has served in that capacity until 2011. Pastor Thomas?
Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Reverend A. Thomas, lead pastor here at the Oneness Rehoboth Apostolic Church, located at 125 East 3rd Street in Mount Vernon. I want to say a special welcome to our elected officials, developers, and local initiative support cooperation, please. Our attorney, Mr. John Savage, is there as well. Welcome, sir. And the Oneness Rehoboth Apostolic Church Incorporated has been serving the Mount Vernon community for the past 42 years. As a matter of fact, we just celebrated 42 years this weekend. We're a congregation of about 500 members. Our current services include religious services, Bible studies, Bible school, youth programs, community dinners, outreach to the Westchester County correctional facilities, a reentry program for young men and women who are paroled from that facility, a food pantry, clothing pantry, health fairs, and a counseling program for young professionals who are unsure of their career path. That's our involvement here in the city. And our goal for the future is to retain as many of these professionals into our community as possible. Yes. Ms. Dennis is the director of our Oneness CDC.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Cheryl Dennis, and I am the president of our church's Oneness Community Development Corporation. We have been in existence since October 2018 with the vision to lead in the development of a community free of violence, homelessness, poverty, and trauma, where individuals, seniors, veterans, disabled, youth, families are stable and thriving. The Oneness CDC is under the auspices of our church. We are a faith-based, mission-driven 501c3 CDC, and our priority is to develop quality housing made with quality materials and providing quality services for our renters and our homeowners in Mount Vernon. This spring, the church, as you are seeing right now, will be transitioning into a new home located at Fulton and Lincoln Avenue into a 67,000 square foot space. And we're extremely excited. And at this time, as RFQ will move, we will be moving into the next phase of the services that we are providing in the community, which is providing quality housing. We seek to provide a housing model where the ground floor space of both projects will have community centers with programs that improve the quality of life for not only our tenants and our homeowners, but the entire community of residents here in Mount Vernon. Economic empowerment, health and wellness, life skills, sports, education, employment, mental health counseling, substance abuse counseling, case management, and key aging in place programming will make up some of the scheduled social services that we will offer to the entire community of Mount Vernon. It is the Oneness CDC's desire to not only build quality, affordable housing, but more importantly, help build a better future for the lives of the Mount Vernon residents, demonstrating Christ's love.
Okay, I'm going to get into the essence of today's session. Going to go through the RFQ. Again, this is an RFQ to select a co-developer or co-developers, as the case may be. As you can see, there are two separate sites that are subject of this RFQ. The first one is block 3158, which is comprised of 125th East 3rd Street, 131 East 3rd Street, and 154 Franklin Avenue, which is where we are situated here today. And that site has been named a church site. The second site is block 3159, portions thereof, which is lots 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 42. And the addresses are 139 East 3rd Street, 147 East 3rd Street, 141 Franklin Avenue, and 153 Franklin Avenue, which is a parking lot. For those of you who stick around, will be able to see those two sites after we finish the presentation today. So again, those are the two distinct parcels that are comprised of multiple parcels. The RFQ does contain a concept plan, which calls for the development of 232 units of market rate housing, homeownership housing. And again, I want to stress that it's just a concept plan that will obviously evolve over a period of time, subject to feasibility analysis, subject to input from the co-developer, subject to input from the city. So again, this is just a starting point, a jumping off point, so to speak, for the redevelopment of these two parcels. Zoning relief will be needed for ODC to achieve its goals. And there's been communication with the city about those zoning reliefs that are needed. We do have our architect with us today from ESKW. If we can get more into that detail later. And again, OCD will work with the selected co-developer. I also want to point out that something's not on the slide. OCDC's preference is to select a co-developer that will be a fee developer that will exit the project after stabilization. So I want to repeat that. That is their preference. They select a fee developer that again will exit the development after stabilization. Scope of work that's outlined in the RFQ. Again, work with OCD and the community and the city, all stakeholders to refine the site plan. Provide the guarantees that are necessary to complete the project. Hire and manage the consultants development team, and partner with OCD to get the funding necessary to bring this project full implementation. Of course, we want you to be responsive to the local community, to the neighborhood, and the government. Work with LISC New York and the church and OCDC to make sure that we have provide opportunities for disadvantaged, minority, women-owned, and BIPOC-led enterprises. As you saw earlier, that is one of LISC New York's key missions. And last here, organize an ownership entity and a structure that's approved by OCDC. The minimum requirements, try to keep them as minimal as possible. 5 years of experience developing housing of a comparable size and scope. You need to have experience with developing housing with the low-income housing tax credits, both the 9% and the 4%. You need to have completed 2 projects in the last 10 years of a comparable size and scope to what we're asking you to do here. We need to have experience in accessing private equity, debt, loans, and again, we need you to have experience with transitioning ownership and operation to OCDC or an affiliate thereof. Criteria, we'll be judging you on the quality and completeness of your response to the RFQ. We'll be judging you on your past experience with completing projects of a comparable size and scope, your experience with, again, obtaining financing, particularly from the New York State Housing Community Renewal. And again, judging your team members as well as your organization and their overall capabilities in bringing a project of this size to fruition. Financial capacity, very important that you have the ability to secure funding, and as well as that you would need a certain degree of capitalization to make the guarantees necessary to get the funding needed to develop this development. Timeline. The deadline for questions is Wednesday, November 13th, 2024. Your question will be sent to NYLOP at LISC.org. We will respond to your questions by Monday, November 18th. And the responses are due no later than 3 p.m. local time, Monday, December 9th, 2024. And that is it for my presentation. I'll turn it back over to Ms. Beam, who will lead us through the questions and answer session. Looks like we have 13 responses so far. We can, and then we need to be able to take questions from the attendees here as well. We're going to go through the questions that we have in the chat room to the extent we can answer those. If not, again, all questions will be responded to in writing, including those answers today, as we stated a few minutes ago. Can you say no questions?
One the message. Nope, that was his email address. Nope.
Okay, again, if you have questions, could you please put them in the chat room? And meanwhile, I will take questions from the attendees here today. So why don't we start here? If anyone in attendance has questions, I will be happy to answer them.
If people on Zoom have questions, they can just raise their hand and they can ask their questions live. That may make more sense.
So if anyone on Zoom has a question, if you put your hand up, I'll be able to see and you can ask your questions live.
We do have questions in person? Yes.
I see it says 432 units. You can come up community, you engage with the contractors, that's how Eastern, Mount Vernon, that's Worcester.
Okay, you give me your name and you represent.
Name Latif,
Okay.
and represent Mount Vernon.
Yeah. The building is 232 units, right? How many, 2 towers, 1 building, how many buildings?
The concept plan of 2 buildings.
He's asking for, the question was,
First site
how many buildings?
and the
How many floors?
vacant lot is everything shortly. So 2
It consists of 2 buildings, 6 stories each.
9 stories approximately on both sites.
Approximately, maybe able to go up for 9 stories on each site.
So that's the construct. You can take to work with you to for developer to modify them. Right. And again, we will need zoning relief to achieve those unit counts that I gave you.
Zoning relief will be needed to
And
achieve the
terms of-
numbers in the RFQ.
We will be looking for and work with the first developer to provide what's the word priority reference to
They will work with the co-developer to provide purpose, so local contractors.
will be there to do that groups, women-owned groups,
As well as women-owned groups, BIPOC-led organizations.
are the mission statement for this New York. Again, the 232 is just a construct.
So I understand it's a construct that you put together by the architect and what he's thinking he would be talking about. But the unit mix,
I noticed in the unit mix for the 232 that probably 90% of it was one bedroom.
Question about the unit mix.
232 only 8 to 10 were 3 bedrooms, and maybe there were 20 or so 2 bedrooms. Is that the kind? Are you looking for that percentage of one?
Question is, are we looking for the percentage as shown in the RFQ? Again, that's a concept, and it will be worked between ODC and the co-developer.
So we take that vision, look at the zoning. And then we try to figure out by talking to the city and what is possible, what's achievable in terms of the zoning things that they're willing to give us. So based on the company, this company and the zoning change that we need, we come up with what is just the square footage, right? Right, that's it all. So we do that, and then we just we back into a unit mix solely so we can run some initial feasibility numbers. So, for example, we started out thinking the site would be primarily one bedrooms, but we evolved. Only recently we talked about adding some 2 bedrooms.
Explaining how the site can evolve to add 2 bedrooms.
So
Market study demands.
concept really evolve based upon what is feasible. We will have to do a market study, right? Determine
The market study will decide what is feasible and what is needed by the community.
all that will be determined by the building. We normally do is that we into an exclusive agreement with the developer, and we get that developer 120 days to determine the feasibility, including things I just talked about. Market study, environmental assessment, underwriting. And then we will negotiate with you and we'll figure out that the proper mix is X, Y, Z. But that's what the 120 day exclusivity period is for. You'll be given.
The co-developer will give an exclusivity agreement of 120 days to do a feasibility analysis to decide what the unit mix should be.
The other questions? I'm all warmed up now.
Is it anticipated that the community space will be operated by ORIC or a third party or both?
Again, the concept is that what we typically do in these arrangements is that we turn that community space back over to the CDC, and then they determine how they want that to be operated. In some cases, we had daycare centers, right? And obviously, those daycare centers have been leased out for a fee. So again, that will happen in feasibility analysis. First thing we have to do is figure out how much community space, right? And just as important, more importantly,
the usage will be
how to
figured
be
out during the
paid for
feasibility
it.
analysis.
And if it's commercial space, it becomes a bit more complicated because that has to be paid for as well. So again, the market study will dictate how much commercial space, what we can get for it, and the best use of that space. So again, 120 day exclusivity period is supposed to work all those nuances out. But typically the church does get that space back. Typically that's multiple condos. There's a rental condo. There is a commercial condo. And then there's a community space condo. That's the way it typically works out. So that will be multiple condos. And that could be multiple condos in each building as well, in each block.
Are there any additional questions online? I don't see any additional ones online. Let me see.
No questions? Any more questions here? Anyone? Okay. I want to go back.
I'm sorry, one question over here.
Yes, presentation will be made available
On the LISC website.
on this website.
The question was, will copies of the presentation be sent out
It'll be available.
and will be made available on the LISC website?
Well, everything we said today will be responded to in writing. If there are questions that, indicate that that requires to change something in the RFQ, that'll be done through an email. Then we'll on the agenda. Yeah. So, yes.
Question. Are there any environmental reports?
There are no environmental reports.
There are no environmental
Knowledge, but
reports
that's
to our
something we
knowledge.
often do during the feasibility period, because we want to look at impediments during the project, environmental concerns, legal concerns, zoning concerns. Those are typical concerns that have to be addressed to make sure the project is feasible. Environmental concerns can always be addressed, but the question is at what cost and how much time.
Right. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Does anyone online have any other questions?
I'm gonna go back to the timeline again.
Yeah.
Okay, gonna go back to the timeline again. That hospital person with November 13th, 2024. We are gonna respond to those questions, with a post online, as well as over the
Deadline for questions are November 13th, and we'll respond to all questions by November 18th.
Monday, December 9th, and you can see here, there are no exceptions to getting your response in on time. We're gonna give it back to Ms. Dean to wrap us up, and then I said, we're gonna tour the two sites after the meeting here.
We're gonna give the Ms. Dean, we're gonna send it back to you for the closing, and for those that are present, we will be doing a site tour after Ms. Dean is done. Ms. Dean?
Sure. So I just want to thank everybody again for attending this session. If you have any questions, just send an email to NYLOP@LISC.org. Again, that's NYLOP@LISC.org. You'll find the email address on the information for today's session. We will post the recording of this session to our website. Just give us a couple of days. Again, I want to reiterate November 13th, the deadline for questions. Send them to us. Feel free to give us a phone call if you want to chat about something in particular. Madeline, I see your question in the chat where you circulate a sign-in sheet for the in-person attendees. I guess that wouldn't be an issue. I'm not sure how many people are in person, but we definitely will be happy to share as much information as we can that's public, given people are comfortable with that. So I don't have any other comments. I want to thank you all for taking time out to learn more about this project. If you would like to schedule a site visit or go over and look at the properties with someone from the team, definitely let us know. You can again send an email over to that NYLOP@LISC, and someone from my office, Rashida or Rondalee Davis, will be more than happy to follow up with everyone. So thank you. So if we don't have any more questions, we will adjourn for this session and expect to hear from everyone regarding any questions or comments regarding this project.
Thank you. Have a good day.